To me, my X-Men! To me, MT! And welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. The end of X-Men 97 Episode 2 blew minds everywhere when a second Jean Grey appeared out of nowhere. But who the hell is this second Jean Grey anyway? Where did she come from? Where did she go? Where did she come from, Cyclops-Eye Joe? Let's talk about it, y'all, because the Jean Grey that we've been following this entire time is a fraud. And that fraud's name is Madelyne Pryor. But prior to us getting into who Madelyne Pryor is, don't forget that for just 99 cents a month, you guys can become a member of the Heavy Spoilers channel, which means that you guys get early access to all of our videos before everybody else. It is a steal of a great deal, and it's a really great way to support what we do on the channel, because, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, and we really appreciate you guys' help. But if you don't have the money, that's okay. We're just glad that you guys are here. But if you guys want to leave a like on this video, or maybe even consider subscribing, that would also be super helpful. Alright, so, like I alluded to before, Cyclops had better push that red button and call a meeting because there is an impostor among us. Although it may seem like the Jean Grey that showed up at the X-Men's doorstep and didn't just give birth to a beautiful baby boy is the impostor, unfortunately for Scott, that just isn't the case. And while having two hot redheads in your life might seem like what Jean dreams are made of, the revelation that Cyclops has been sleeping with a clone this entire time is about to make his life and all of the lives of the X-Men a lot more complicated and confusing. But the first question we gotta answer is, if Mama Jean is not Scott's lover, then where the hell did this fake one even come from? Well, you can blame the X-Men villain and mad genetic scientist Mr. Sinister for that one in the comics, because you see, Mr. Sinister didn't always look all pale, creepy, and well, sinister like that. He actually used to be a big ol' regular nerd named Nathaniel Essex who grew up in 19th century England. And he was a big ol' nerd who was obsessed with Charles Darwin's hot new theory of evolution, so much so that Nathaniel was able to predict the coming rise of the X gene within humanity to eventually create mutant kind. But unfortunately, in order to gather sufficient data to prove his various evolution theories, Nathaniel Essex went slightly overboard and started kidnapping and caging innocent people for his experiments. And if you thought that was bad, this dude even went as far as to dig up his own dead son in order to experiment on his corpse. Nathaniel's wife Rebecca was not a big fan of that one, but you know, marriage is all about compromise, am I right? But while Nathaniel was rejected by his science peers and loved ones for his outlandish and inhumane science theories and practices, there was actually one man out there in the world who was a massive fan of Dr. Essex's experiments on the human genome, the Omega-level mutant Apocalypse, one of the first mutants to walk on the planet. Basically, long story short, Apocalypse is extremely impressed with Nathaniel's work ethic and basically forced Nathaniel into a lifetime of servitude for him. And as a gift to Nathaniel for his loyalty, Apocalypse would radically alter Nathaniel's genetic structure in order for him to become the mutated Mr. Sinister. However, Mr. Sinister wasn't exactly ultra thrilled to be cursed to be Apocalypse's science slave for all of eternity, because your boy had his own weird-ass dreams and aspirations, as we all do. But like, how do you tell the most powerful mutant that has ever lived on the planet that you want to see other people? That breakup is going to be pretty damn messy if you ask me, and Mr. Sinister knew that too. So one day, Mr. Sinister tries to infect Apocalypse with the same techno-organic virus that Apocalypse ordered him to make for him, hoping that the virus would get rid of Apocalypse once and for all. However, because Apocalypse ate his Wheaties and took his vitamin supplements every day, his body processed that virus like a goddamn champ, leading Mr. Sinister to shit his pants and run for his freaking life after making a powerful new enemy. So now, needless to say, Mr. Sinister has himself a big-ass problem. How do you stop a mutated monster as powerful as Apocalypse? I mean, even with all the power and knowledge that Mr. Sinister possessed himself, he knew damn well that any attempt to directly attack Apocalypse would result in him turning into a puddle of blood in the middle of the goddamn street. If only Mr. Sinister knew somebody out there powerful enough to take out his former employer. If only, but no such person existed. Yet. So, Mr. Sinister decided to rely on the only thing that he could ever rely on in his life, science. Because if he couldn't find someone to fight Apocalypse, he knew damn well sure that he could create somebody that could fight Apocalypse. But all he needed were the right ingredients. And by ingredients, I mean, you know, real human people. But you know, Tomato, tomato, everyone's just an ingredient to Mr. Sinister. But luckily enough for Mr. Sinister, he had come across Jean Grey and Scott Summers during one of their weird time travel adventures that caused them to arrive in the 19th century. And after witnessing the power of that mutant power couple firsthand, Mr. Sinister immediately wanted these two to start banging right then and there. Not for the purpose of him just watching in the corner with his creepy red eyes, but just so those two powerful mutants could produce a child that Mr. Sinister could use as a weapon to take out Apocalypse once and for all. So, Mr. Sinister, blessed with a super long lifespan as a result of his genetic enhancements, decided to wait until Jean Grey was born in the 20th century, and plotted to murder her parents and steal and kidnap Jean from her childhood home. But unfortunately for him, psychic Mr. Clean got to Jean's house first and recruited a young Jean to join him at the Xavier Institute to eventually form the original X-Men roster. So Mr. Sinister had to go with Plan B, which involved stealing a tissue sample from Jean Grey and creating a genetically identical clone of her that could suit his purposes. However, there was a little problem with Sinister's clone. She straight up would not turn on. Like, that clone was pretty much lifeless, man. Lifeless and without any mutant powers that Mr. Sinister could notice. So he let his failed experiment just chill in a stasis tube for a little while until one day some crazy ass shit went down after the X-Men went up to the moon. The blue area of the moon to be exact, and it's an event that the cloned Jean Grey mentions to Storm in episode 2 of this season when she whips out the real Jean Grey's old Marvel Girl costume.
Haven't worn this old thing since that battle in the blue area of the moon. I was possessed by a malevolent cosmic entity intent on consuming all of existence.
But long story short, in the comics, Jean Grey was all Dark Phoenixed out and on the verge of becoming a major cosmic problem until that Dark Phoenix Jean Grey made the heroic choice to sacrifice herself to protect everyone from her Dark Phoenix influence. And while this naturally made Scott super depressed and caused him to leave the X-Men team for a little while, Mr. Sinister was about to be just as upset for other reasons as well, as his only ticket out from under Apocalypse's boot just went up in smoke. However, Mr. Sinister would luck out tremendously when, at the exact moment of Jean's moon sacrifice, a piece of the Phoenix Force would travel from the moon and find its way inside of this cloned Jean Grey's body, and cause that clone to be imbued with life and finally wake up. And Mr. Sinister was like, oh shit, nice, this is perfect for me, and decided to fill that clone with a bunch of fake memories to match the original Jean Grey's personality, and then name that clone Madelyne Pryor, with the goal of planting Jean in Anchorage, Alaska, where Cyclops was at the time. And when Scott ran across this girl that looked and acted exactly like his dead girlfriend, bro was big time gassed, man. I mean, yeah, he did find some bits of her past a little bit strange and suspicious, like how Madelyne claimed that she survived a plane crash on the same exact date and time that Jean Grey sacrificed herself on the moon. But despite these reservations, this dude straight up still thinks that he hit the jackpot. So Scott decides to fall right into Mr. Sinister's booty trap and marry Madelyne Pryor outright, and the two produce a child named Nathan Christopher Charles Summers, the time-traveling mutant that would eventually become known as Cable, with Cable's birth name Nathan, of course, being a shout to his grandfather, Nathaniel Essex. But here's the thing, y'all, comic books be comic bookin', and so of course one day, in the middle of Madelyne and Scott's happy married life together as parents, the real Jean Grey suddenly returns, just like we saw at the end of episode 2 of X-Men 97, with comic book readers finding out later that the Dark Phoenix Jean that died on the moon was a cosmic clone created by the Phoenix after the Phoenix placed the real Jean Grey in a cocoon at the bottom of Jamaica Bay to heal from the cosmic injuries that she sustained at the time. And I mean, it's a little bit of a long story, but Jean Grey was actually attempting to pilot a space shuttle back to Earth when she first encountered the Phoenix Force. And in order to save her life from the cosmic rays that were bombarding the ship at that moment, the Phoenix made a cocoon for Jean to rest and heal up in while creating a clone of Jean to go do the Dark Phoenix saga. I know, this shit's weird and complex, but that's just comic books, man. The point is, after spending years recovering from the cosmic ray wounds that she sustained during that space mission, the real Jean Grey had returned, causing Scott to immediately start questioning his entire happy life with Madelyne, a life that Madelyne insisted be X-Man free, like we see in the show, because Madelyne wanted to raise Nathan without all that X-Men business in the way. But even though Scott did leave the X-Men to be with his family, he rather quickly abandoned that idea and rejoined the hero life by forming X-Factor just so he can be with the real Jean Grey again, essentially abandoning his wife to raise her infant son alone, which is super messed up. But I guess Scott isn't all that into genetically modified cooch and prefers his Jean Greys all natural. This of course causes Madelyne to fall into a deep depression. But to make matters even worse, here comes Mr. Sinister ready to collect on his creepy-ass genetic investment. And after sending his army of marauders to kill Madelyne and kidnap her baby son, Madelyne would wake up from a coma as a result of that botched assassination to find that Mr. Sinister erased all public records of her existence in order to clean up his tracks. With both her husband and son now gone, Madelyne has little to live for and becomes super emotionally distraught. As an act of revenge, Madelyne would enter a relationship with Scott's brother, Alex Summers, who she found as a great source of comfort during her time of need. But unfortunately, Madelyne would also be comforted by demons! Demons by the names of Sim and Nastir, who helped Madelyne find Mr. Sinister and rescue her son from his clutches. But when she found Mr. Sinister, he did end up telling her the full truth of her origins as a clone, and this devastating revelation was very much the last straw that broke the camel's back. She would use her new demon powers that her new demon friends gave her to become the infamous Goblin Queen, leading her to attack the real Jean Grey, her deadbeat baby daddy, and the rest of their X-Factor team, even using her demon powers to turn her lover Alex Summers into her Goblin Prince. However, since the demonic powers of darkness were clouding her mind, the Goblin Queen would end up taking her baby Nathan, along with a bunch of other babies, with the plan of sacrificing them at the top of the Empire State Building just to spite Cyclops and make a last-ditch attempt to kill Jean Grey, but she would eventually die during those attempts. But since Madelyne was now closely aligned with demon magic, resurrecting herself is not off the table. In fact, she would do that multiple times after her initial death. Like that time the powerful mutant X-Man, an alternate universe child of Jean and Scott, brought her back as a psionic ghost, or those other times she was brought back through dark magic to join two separate versions of the Sisterhood of Mutants. But basically, all you guys need to know is that Madelyne Pryor is now Marvel's Goblin Queen of Demons, and she rules the demon dimension of Limbo with absolute authority, with, a couple of challenges here and there by stupid demons who want her throne, but she usually ends up on top. But all in all, given what we've seen so far in the X-Men 97 animated series, I would not be surprised to see the Jean Grey that we've been following this entire time go full Goblin mode and become the Goblin Queen of the MCU sometime this season. But only time will tell, and I cannot wait to watch more of these episodes, man, because X-Men 97 is truly killing it with this engaging narrative. I did not see this Madelyne Pryor twist coming. Like, my god, Kevin Feige's cooking. But anyways, that is it for this explainer of who Madelyne Pryor is. Let us know your favorite parts of the first 2 episodes of the X-Men animated series down below, because there is a lot to appreciate in just these 2 episodes. You can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever I am on the internet, but most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button and hitting that notification bell so that you can get notifications every single time we upload a video. And again, for just 99 cents a month, you can become a member of our channel and get early access to all of our content before everyone else, which is a super great perk and a great way to support the channel. But like always, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for spending time with me during this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.